Hey there, and welcome to the Foodscaper Podcast, where we dig deep into the growing world of foodscaping, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Matt Lebon, and on each episode, we are unearthing the stories of those who have turned their passion for growing food and nurturing ecological landscapes into thriving professions. From seasoned pros to fresh faces in the industry, we'll chat with the innovators and trailblazers who are transforming how we think about food production and landscape design. Whether you're contemplating a career in foodscaping or you're already knee-deep in garden soil, our guests will share their insights, experiences, and inspirations to help you cultivate your own path.
I knew right then and there, I found my calling. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do.
Get ready to dig into some rich conversations. Let's get growing. A big thanks to our podcast sponsors, Epic Gardening and Stark Brothers Nursery. Thank you both so much. We got Andrew Tyrrell here with Black Rock Garden Structures. Andrew, I'm real excited to be talking with you. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Matt, I'm very excited. This is a great honor to be a part of your podcast. Thank you for having me.
You very much deserve it. I've been crushing on your Instagram photos for a while now and just been really blown away by some of the garden projects that you're working on and inspired to see some of your passions come to life through the work you're doing. So I think we've got a lot in common and a lot to talk about. I'm excited to hear your story. Tell us a little bit about where you're joining us from and what Black Rock Garden Structures is all about.
Right on. My name is Andrew Tyrrell. I'm the owner and operator of Black Rock Garden Structures, and we are located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The reason why I chose the name Black Rock is because there is a historic part of Bridgeport called Black Rock. So that's where I was born and raised. That's where I grew up most of my childhood, and that's where I currently reside. On my Instagram, we've received a lot of insight from people all over the country, if not all over the world, and some people feel that I'm associated with the big conglomerate company BlackRock, but that's not the case. Bridgeport, Connecticut, for sure.
Yeah, I did think of that myself. I don't know much about BlackRock, but I do know that they're like this mega company. So you're in Bridgeport, Connecticut. What are you all primarily doing? We talk to all kinds of people in terms of what their niches are. Tell us a little bit about your offerings and your niche within the foodscaping world.
What we've been doing is building these custom enclosed cedar vegetable gardens. We've been in business for about 5 years now. The first project we ever did was for a client, and I was just going to build them a standard plant into the soil with the green 2x3-inch Home Depot fence and the posts. And the guys working for me said they know where we can get cedar and how we can design and build a great garden. So I said, all right, let's do it. So we built the first garden. It wasn't an enclosure. It was an open top garden. And we built that in Fairfield, Connecticut. When we were finished with the garden, Chris said to me, he goes, hey, if you never need help designing gardens, I'm a drafter and I can help you. So a few months later, we got a call from a client and they said, hey, I like what you built in Fairfield a few months ago. Can you build me something similar, but can you put a top on it? So I went back to Chris and I said, hey, we got to put a top on this. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we sat there for a few hours to try and figure out how we were going to do it. And that project was our first ever custom enclosed cedar vegetable garden. And from there, it just took off. So not only do we do the custom enclosed vegetable gardens, we do the open top gardens. We do backyard composting services for clients. We do decks, pergolas. I'm really big into worm castings and working with Vermicompost. So just a variety of services for this industry.
Yeah, I'd love to loop back around to hear about that work with the Vermicompost and the whole soil health piece, which is a really unique take as well as your kind of garden enclosure specialty. Yeah, people I'm sure who are listening are going to pop over to your Instagram and see some of these enclosed gardens. I'm excited to learn more about those. But I want to hear more about your history of getting into this. It sounds like you've been at it for 5 years. What brought you into it in the first place?
Yeah, right on. 12 years old, I started a landscaping company. I had a little push mower. a little Home Depot weed whacker, and a little Home Depot leaf blower. I just went door to door in my neighborhood and I cut people's lawns for 10, 15, 20 bucks. And really got into all this working with nature, working in nature from my mother. Her grandmother was a huge gardener and taught my mom about gardening and growing vegetables. And I can remember since I was 4 or 5 years old, we've always been in the garden. My mom would go and plant and she would plop us in the garden. Sometimes when she would plant, I would be trailing behind her, picking out all of her starters.
Yeah.
And my mother definitely got me into the gardening world at a very young age. If we fast forward a bit, I wanted to have a landscaping company. I started a landscaping company and we started out cutting lawns and doing cleanups. And as the company evolves and business picks up, your products and services are a little more diverse. We started to do a lot of things in design work, planting a lot of native plants. We started doing some patio designs and hardscapes. If we fast forward a little bit further down the road, I wanted to have more of a purpose to be able to reach people in my community, if not the state, and just have more value for what I was offering. Not to say that a landscaper doesn't have value, because we do. I wanted to find my own niche and go with that. I stumbled upon the University of Connecticut Master Composting course. And I took that at the Tolland Agriculture Station in Connecticut. And that whole process was like 4 or 5 months long. It was 4 months in the classroom. We would go a few times a week. And then we had to do an outreach, some type of service in the community. So what better service to do into the community than at a school? I did a vermicompost workshop. For those of you who are not familiar with vermicompost, it's composting with red wiggler worms, which I fell in love with and I'm still doing today at home for myself and for clients. I had brought in a worm bin that I had going for 3 to 4 months. And it was at the time where the compost was ready. It had cured. The teacher asked me, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to bring in my compost bin and we're going to dump it out on the table and I'm going to bring popsicle sticks. The kids are going to be able to comb through everything." And that's what I did. The kids absolutely loved it. The students were able to see how the transformation of food waste became food. So it's this exchange of food waste for compost, nutrient dense soil amendment. The kids were able to see the different stages of the cycle of a red wiggler worm, from the different colors of the cocoon to baby worms, all the way up to the adult world. I just remember seeing these kids and they were so excited. I wanted to share and pass that excitement on to other people within my community and whoever I could have an impact with. After completing the Master Composting course, I networked with a gentleman. His name is Dan Martins, and he's a North American representative for Novamont, an Italy-based company. Their company makes the resin for BioBag. I networked with Dan, and Dan said, "Hey man, you should go and check out the people down at Earth Matter New York." Earth Matter New York is in New York City on Governor's Island. Governor's Island is a zero waste island. And you should go check it out. It's an awesome place. It's an urban farm and compost learning center. And I did that for 2.5, 3 years. We learned about 12 to 15 different varieties of backyard composting devices and how to maintain them. I remember my first day making a batch of compost and incorporating food waste, some manure as your nitrogen source. And then your carbon source, we use wood chips, wood shavings, and leaves. We made our first batch of compost, but we were also able to maintain another batch of compost that day. And to see all this material break down, it was just absolutely, like, I was blown away by it. I was so excited about it. I knew right then and there, like, I found my calling. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. It's all going to loop and it's all going to incorporate into one.
Yeah. That's the most exhilarating feeling, right? You make the compost pile, you come back, and like this thing that was all these disparate parts stacked up to the top, you come back and it's all broken down. It's that black gold that you dream of. stick your hand in a compost bin and it's just like the red wigglers are so dense that they're all in a ball. They're just loving life so much, and you know that they're happy.
For sure, man. For sure. It was such a powerful experience for me. I get choked up about this and I do get teary eyed and I express my emotions, but I want to say thank you to Marissa Dinaminesis and Charles Bayer from Earth Matter. Marissa is the executive director and Charles is the operations manager, as well as their staff for all the work that they do and the impact that their program has outside of the city, which in this case went from New York City to Bridgeport.
Right.
And
It sounds like they've had a profound impact on you. It sounds like an organization worth checking out. How far away are you from New York City?
so we're about an hour drive from New York City. It's about an hour and a half train ride.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy to access and get down into the Lower East Side and hop on a ferry and head to Governor's Island for sure.
It sounds like compost was really the gateway that led you away from traditional landscaping and into this unique vegetable gardening niche. Is that fair to say?
That's accurate for sure.
I love these
Sure.
serendipitous things that come along in our life, and if you're open to them, you follow that path. So, are you doing the traditional landscape stuff still, or are you just focused on the vegetable gardens and stuff like that?
We're doing projects a few times a year. We'll have projects where we'll work with clients or local organizations to do native flower bed design and plantings with our gardens, whether it's an open top garden, an enclosure, or planter boxes for patios. We try to incorporate native plantings along the perimeter of the gardens.
Yeah.
All right. So we
That's
want
great.
to invite pollinators. We want bees. We want butterflies. We want the pollinators to come and do their job because it's all about the closed loop of sustainability. One system feeds the next and then the other. It's just one big circle. It's one big loop. So we wanted to incorporate some of that in some of our gardens. Yes, we do that. It's not like the only thing that we do, but we do some of that work for sure.
So you're talking about this and tell us a little bit about your team and who all are you working with?
Yeah, so I always say we, and people are just like, why do you do that? I have a crew of guys that work their tail off. They come to work and work very hard. They're very knowledgeable with what they're doing and how we're supposed to execute jobs. I'm really blessed to have the gentleman that I have working for me. We started 5 or 6 years ago, and I hired a gentleman. His name's Andy, and he's a carpenter, and he's been working with me for 5 to 6 years now. So he's got a background of 30 to 35 years of carpentry. So building houses, additions, decks, stuff like that. Andy has taught me everything I know about carpentry and buildings. I'm not a master carpenter by any means. I've learned from Andy. I've also learned from experience. I think experience is huge. You learn from your mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. Andy's been with us for 5 or 6 years, and I've hired some people over the years, and things just didn't work out. But we have 3 other gentlemen that work for us. They bring a great vibe and craftsmanship to our company. It's a lot of value for sure. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. What I don't know how to do, someone else might know how to do, and vice versa. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited about the crew that we have.
Wow.
And it's like, when I say gentlemen, I'm willing to hire anyone. If there's a woman out there or a lady that can swing the hammer, really good carpentry skills, give us a call. We would love to hire you and look into that. We hire anyone who wants to work and has the background for sure.
Yeah. Did you do a traditional hiring method where you posted job postings, people applied and you did interviews, or how did you find these awesome people you're working with?
It was like word to mouth and through friends.
Yep.
Like my father's friend, he's a big time builder in Fairfield County. And I asked him, hey, I'm looking for a carpenter. Who do you have? And he had Andy in mind. So I didn't do that traditional posting on any of the websites or any of the apps. I just found people.
It's such a unique story with Andy to be able to hire somebody that is good to teach you so much. What an incredible opportunity to collaborate with somebody like that.
It's really a godsend. I didn't go to university for carpentry skills, but he's been teaching me. pay him every week as anyone else would when you come to work. So I'm paying for the experience. I'm paying for the knowledge. It adds tremendous value. And he's one of my best friends outside of work. So
That's a beautiful thing about doing the install work. I just feel like we have so much camaraderie to gain through working hard together with other people and learning from other people's gifts. That's been one of the biggest godsends to me personally, working with other talented people, learning from them and growing. Even though I'm the boss, it's an opportunity for collaboration.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds so. Andy, it sounds like he was a really amazing part of the story in terms of people that came into your life. It also sounds like your first job and this draftsman who said they could mock things up. I'm curious about your design process because you have some pretty intricate enclosed gardens. There's actually some rather big ones that clearly involve structural load and thinking very strategically about what is this going to look like aesthetically, because there's so much three-dimensionality. I imagine you want to be able to communicate that to clients ahead of time. So how are you communicating that?
Do every consultation, it can be difficult, right? Because you're trying to sell your product to the client, to the consumer. You have to make this thing come to life within that hour consultation. So working with Chris has been amazing. So Chris, he does 2-dimension site plan, he does elevation, he does 3-dimension, and he does animation. He offers a variety of services from his home on his computer. It really comes down to what the client is looking for. A lot of the gardens that we build are small, and there are some medium-sized gardens and there are some large gardens. So we have to take into consideration, what does our client want to grow? What's something that their family really loves that they would like an abundance of? And then we take that information and we draw a plan on a size garden that's going to complement those plants, right? You're going to have enough room in that garden for these plants to thrive. I've been doing this for a few years now. I can guesstimate what size garden would work for a family of 4 or a family of 5.
Yep.
But then we also tell our clients that we do arbor entryways, pergolas, potting tables, storage units. We did a job in Medford, New York, and built a built-in love seat in their garden. In terms of the design, it's during that consultation. And for every job, we do an in-person on-site consultation. We've had a lot of people reach out and be like, can we do a video chat? Or can I send you pictures and this and that? And it's just, I say no a lot of the time because it's bad science. How could you go to a job and not look at it prior to even in doing something, right? You have to see it. You have to see where your water sources are, where your electric outlets are to set up your tools. And you want to be able to be on site to take measurements, not just guesstimate. Because if I guesstimate, then I wouldn't have a job right now. So those consultations are important. But the biggest thing for me in my job and what I love about what I do is meeting my clients. I want to meet your family. I want to see what your vibe is. What are you guys into? It means so much to meet my clients. The biggest thing is the relationship we create with our clients. If you just look at them as people interested in a vegetable garden, or they want to do composting and they're also a steward of the land, but we want to make those connections. And I've a lot of clients that we're still connected to. They might need help with something or another service, and we're able to provide that for them. It's very powerful for sure.
Yeah, that human connection adds a lot of meaning for sure. It also, yeah, it does just foster a long-term relationship where it's going to mean other products down the road, or just word of mouth referrals or other things. It's not just a one and done deal. You're part of a network, part of a community, part of an interconnection there. So I love that you're speaking to that, and it's clear that it's an important part. I'm baffled by people who do this work remotely. We do on site for all of our consultations as well. When you're done with the consultation, do you mock up? It sounds like you send this stuff to Chris. So you'll send the measurements, the information, then he creates a rendering. Sometimes it's 3D, sometimes it's 2D, but then you send that to your clients.
Yeah, pretty much. The clients pay for a drawing, whatever the size or whatever the cost is. It's contingent upon the gardens. For our products, everything's custom. So there's no A, B, or C options. It's custom to what you want to grow. It's custom to your landscape. It's custom to the sun. We look at so many different variables to make sure that it's going to work out in their favor. After we collect all the information, I send it to Chris, and I meet with Chris for hours on some of these projects. And We go back to the client with the drawing and a contract. And if they ever wanted to make a change to the drawing, we can do that. I'm not going to overcharge a client to make a few small changes. We just do it. After Chris does his drawing, I go back to the client and give them the drawing and a contract, because they have to sign the contract. They also have to sign the drawing too. We want to make sure that the client knows exactly what they're getting, so there's no surprises or anything like that. But it also helps us build the garden kits. So it's great for them because it's like they can take that drawing and they can use that as their garden plan. And they can figure out, okay, we're going to put the tomatoes here, zucchinis over here, string beans on the back. You know what I'm saying? So it's very helpful for them. But pretty much the drawings include a general site plan and an elevation.
Yep.
If they wanted 3D or animation, which we've done for some celebrities, but it's not too common that we do the animation. It could be expensive. And I think it gets the point across with just a general site plan and elevation.
Yeah. How do you take your elevations?
I use 12-inch spikes from Home Depot, mason string, and a line level.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I love the video, in prepping for this interview, that was like you pulling up to the lumber yard, and then you say that you're using white cedar.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm fascinated to learn about white cedar, because here in St. Louis, we are using Eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana. And it seems like there's a number of other companies who are in our same region that have access to this boutique red cedar lumber that is not hardware store lumber. It looks like you're not getting hardware store lumber either. So give us the backstory on this white cedar, because I think many foodscapers are interested in connecting more to their lumber source and understanding that these things are regionally available and they can help tell a story. What's the story of your lumber?
Northern white cedar is native to New England. We have a lot of it, and we use it because the cedar has tannin and oils in it that make it last a lot longer than pine or Douglas fir or spruce. It is not something you can go to Home Depot and get. And it's also something that if you were to go to Rings End Lumber or a few other, like West End Lumber in Bridgeport is a really popular lumber yard. And a lot of these places don't carry it because it's very expensive and it can be hard to get. I really had to do my research on how to get this lumber. No one gave me a contact. No one gave me a phone number. When I asked them, they would just laugh and shrug me off. For your business to thrive, and in order for your business to grow, you have to do your research. You have to do the work. In my experience, things are not going to be handed to you. Nothing was handed to me. I come from humble beginnings, and my mother and father did a hell of a job raising 4 kids, and they gave us the best that they could give with what they have. I come from a hardworking family, blue collar family. And so getting the cedar, I had to do some research on where to get it. And so the northern white cedar can be sourced all throughout New England. And we've found a few mom and pop mills that we order our material from. It's not like these big, giant mills. And because it tells a story. There's one guy we get it from, and he's got a great family, and they're family of 5, and they all work together and they all log. He's like a 3rd or 4th generation logger. Been doing it since he was a kid. And it's just been a really great experience to meet his family. With the cedar, it's a specialty lumber. So you got to put orders in quite a bit in advance, months in advance, if not longer. And you need a couple of different sources for that. So I do have a few different sources, but my main source does a hell of a great job providing us with the best products. So we get everything rough sawn, right?
Yeah.
Because the demand is so high and the waiting list is so high to get it planed. So we get everything rough sawn and then everything back to the shop that we have, and we dress out all the materials. So every single 1x4, every single 5x5 post, 2x, whatever the material is, we bring it back to the shop and we plane it, and we dress everything in the shop. And you know why I love doing that? And people might think I'm crazy, and it can be crazy. It's a lot of work, but you grow a connection with your material. And that's what I love about it. Yeah, people think I'm crazy for oh, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, and that might hold some value there. That might be true, but I like connecting with the material because every piece of lumber that we use is different. It's like we all have every human on earth has a different fingerprint, and that's what every piece of white cedar that we get has. It's all different grades, it's all different grains and different characteristics, and that's why it's highly sought after.
You
So
add anything to it before you use it? You get it rough, you plane it. Do you ever add any products to help preserve it even longer?
we've done like boiled linseed oil or
Yeah.
just linseed oil. It does instill longevity in the products, but there's also some maintenance down the road with that as well.
Yeah.
If you were to do that. So with the white cedar, what happens over time is it's going to turn like a silvery gray.
Yeah.
And we find that 95 to 98% of our clients, they like the gray look. They really like it. And we kind of stick to that. So,
Yeah. When people ask you how long the white cedar is going to last, what do you tell them?
so typically white cedar will last anywhere between 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
We have our secrets that we can't give out to everyone on what we do to instill longevity in the products. But that's why we use the cedar. It's going to last a hell of a lot longer. If you were to order like Western red cedar, it's astronomically expensive. We do have Carolina cedar down in the Carolinas, which has a higher oil content that you could use as well. But the price for that and getting that shipped up and the logistics could be, let's just say it could be a little overwhelming by both myself and the consumer in terms of price. So,
Yeah.
but
So that's super cool that you've been able to get that local product. Yeah, I feel super blessed that we were able to find Eastern red cedar, and it sounds like you're getting your hands on that planed lumber, and you're really connecting. And I love that you've got our local product that lasts a long time that you're able to use. Of course, the soil that it's in contact with is going to play a big role in that. I'm curious about the soil that you're using, being somebody that is a lover of good compost and worms. What kind of compost or soil are you using?
yeah, in terms of the soil that we're using, we use a compost topsoil blend. The reason for that is if you just use straight compost, it's too much of a concentrate, could potentially harm your plants. So we use that 50-50 blend because just like you and I, we need minerals, right? We need minerals in order to thrive. And the plants also need minerals in order to thrive too. And we find that in that topsoil. But in terms of the compost, that's where we're finding micro and macronutrients. That's where we're finding micro, macro organisms, the biology of the soil. It's a living soil. It's alive. So we use a 50-50 blend so that we can get the minerals, so that we can get the nutrition and the vital nutrients that we need coming out of that soil. But then what we do is we take a complete compost. It's like a heavy duty concentrate, and we top dress. We top dress like a few inches, couple inches of the surface, and
Yep.
we hand blend that in. So what's going to happen is your soil level in any type of raised bed that you do is going to deplete over the first year. And we find that every year it's going to deplete a little bit. We're not compacting the soil when we put it in our gardens at all. We want it light. We want it airy. We want it fluffy. We want the plants that are going in, we want their roots to grow and to thrive. So every year we offer a service where we replenish the beds with the compost or the topsoil compost blend, because what happens is the nutrients, the minerals, everything's getting taken out of that soil by the plants every year. So it's important for us to replenish that to still have value in the garden.
Yeah. Are you guys making any of your own compost, or is it any kind of specialty compost that you feel proud of?
So if we rewind a little bit, after I took the Earth Matter New York classes, I did their Composting 101 course, which was just backyard composting devices. And then there were a few of us that said, hey, Marissa, Charles, we know that there's more to composting. We want to learn about it. We see what you guys are doing. We want to learn from the best. We want to be the best. We want to try to give out the same value and love and product. Is there another composting course that Earth Matter would offer? So based on the interest with a few other composters, they developed the Journey 2 program, which was a commercial composting course. So it had to do with windrows and more volume and bulk volume with your ingredients. So after those few years at Earth Matter, I took what I learned. I went to a councilman, his name's Scott Burns in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I said, hey, I want to start a food waste diversion program. So we started Park City Compost Initiative. And the whole reason about that is we wanted to play our part in this global movement of composting. And we knew that we would have an impact within the city of Bridgeport. Park City Compost Initiative has been going on for 5 or 6 years. So pretty much as long as Black Rock Garden Structures has been going on. And we would make our own compost out of food waste and leaf, wood chips and wood shavings, and do buy compost from Park City Compost Initiative, and give our clients like a lot of like our worm castings. They see that we advertise for it, so we do sell some of our worm castings to our clients as well. We have to try to replicate those soil conditions the best that we can.
Are you looking for your foodscaping family? The 2025 Foodscaper Conference is where you will find it. Join us online February 12th and 13th for our 4th annual Meeting of the Minds, a space built for edible landscapers to connect, share, grow, all of us together. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just curious about this career path, you're going to meet people at your level who understand your passion and your business. With interactive workshops, breakout sessions, and expert-led presentations, you'll walk away with new skills and new friends. So get your 10% off code with podcast when you register at thefoodscaper.com. One of the most intimidating parts of starting to design and build foodscapes for clients can be getting the carpentry experience to build raised beds. You got to buy the power tools and a truck to tow the lumber. It can be a big barrier to just get started doing this work. So I recommend getting raised beds from Epic Gardening when you want to skip heavy lift of working with wood. Their prefabricated steel beds are easy to assemble, they offer a professional look, and they are made using renewable energy. They come in all sorts of dimensions and earth-toned colors so you can create a really sleek look for your clients. Head to shop.epicgardening.com and shop Birdie's Raised Beds. I've got so much curiosity about like your raised beds and the lumber that we're talking about and that whole process, bringing the lumber back after you get it. It sounds like you have a shop that you're then like processing all of this lumber at. Do you then pre-cut everything in your shop or do you make all of your cuts on site?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. So in the beginning, that's what we were doing. We would bring the lumber to the site. And some of these poor clients, there's sawdust everywhere and there's this and that everywhere. And it's like what we could do at the time. So with every business that's still in business and that is thriving and always growing and evolving, we look for better methods and solutions to getting our products out to the consumer as fast as we can. And so with that said, I was able to rent a 1-car garage in Black Rock from a gentleman. And we started to rip a lot of the material in this shop or in this garage. And so we're using a 1-car garage. From there, we started getting more jobs. We started getting looked at and noticed and everything. And then I acquired 2 shops. So now we have 2 shops that we work out of, and we're able to make the kits in the shop and to make them possible.
What does a kit mean? Because everything of yours is custom.
So we build the kit in the shop, and that's contingent upon the size of the garden. So that's what I call them. I call them garden kits.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's all assembly on site.
Yeah. So the walls are built in the shop. Everything's planed out in the shop, and then we deliver on site as a kit. The client gives us a down payment to gather all the materials, to build and prep everything. then we deliver, and then we receive another payment to install the garden. And then after that, when the garden's installed, we do a walkthrough to make sure the client's happy, and then we collect the payment.
I wish I could see like a time lapse of your garden installation, because I have a feeling that with the amount of just prep that you're doing in your shops to create this kit, that you've got a really unique, streamlined method. At least that's the way it sounds to me. So
For sure. A few years back, we built this monster of a garden. It was like a 30 by 30 enclosure. And this gentleman in New Canaan, it was for a family of 4. And I was just like, man, you don't need it, but this is a huge garden. And he said, but I want it. And I was like, all right, we could help you out with that. That's no problem.
yes.
We finished this garden, and a buddy of mine, Tommy Heason, he's the operations manager at Park City Compost now. He showed me how to make a reel on Instagram, because I didn't know how to make a reel. I'm not really tech savvy, and I'm just like, okay. So he showed me how to make a reel. He put a good beat to it and a good description. And I said, Tommy, I want the whole world to see this. I want the whole effing world to see this. And we posted, and in, I would say, a week, the video went viral. It had 38 million views, and it was just very humbling to see that. I was in shock. I've never had that, have had that experience, but with those views and everything came all the work and all the jobs. And then we were doing other jobs for clients, and then smaller jobs, bigger jobs, whatever. And that kind of what got us out there into Instagram. And we went from like 400 followers, and we have, I think, 192,000 today. And I don't say that to boast. I say that to anyone who's listening to this podcast, that if you want to go out and start a business, it's going to require a lot of hard work. It's going to require a lot of patience. But if you fight through the growing pains, you can accomplish anything. And for a while within my business, I felt like I was stuck in neutral in so many different aspects. Like, I was putting in all this work and nothing was happening, nothing was evolving. God was just testing me. You want to do this, or are you going to quit? And I didn't want to quit. I'm not a quitter. My parents always told me to finish what you started. It's been just such a remarkable experience to be where I'm at today. And I'm blessed to have what I have. And I thank God every day for giving me the opportunity, and my family and friends and the people that I'm able to work with. And they bust their ass just as harder, if not harder, than I do, to provide for their families. And I completely honor and I value these guys that work for me. I've made mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've learned from those mistakes, and I just kept pushing, and I kept pushing because I knew that I wanted this. I wanted to do this. And that hard work has paid off. And there's times where you're going to get thrown a curveball. There's times where you're going to have a good day, you're going to have a bad day, but it's like, how are you going to show up and answer that? And I definitely have had my struggles, and you're going to work with some people that are going to be a little challenging than others, but it's all about the learning experience. It's all about gaining that knowledge, so you don't make that same mistake the next time, or your practices and your methods become stronger.
Oh man, thanks for the insights and the tips of wisdom on that. Really fascinated by the Instagram journey. It seems like you basically got this reel done, and then you manifested it into Instagram fame. Is that what you were saying? Once you made it, you were like telling your buddy, I want this to be seen by the world. Did you do anything to help it be seen by the world? Or are you saying it just caught lucky fire? Not lucky. It's a gorgeous garden and a beautiful reel, but
I don't know if it's luck. I don't know what it is, but we worked hard on it, and we posted it, and we got noticed by a lot of people all over the country, if not all over the world. We just kept our noses to the grindstone, and we just kept grinding it out. We stayed hungry. We wanted to build, and we just kept building. It's not about the followers. It's about the love that you have. It's about the passion. It's about the desire that you instill in yourself. So you're able to take that and express that into your work. And then I feel like the followers came, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I've continued to do. And we've had continuous work off of that. But a lot of my bread and butter, a lot of my jobs come from Instagram. Yeah, we're just doing what we love to do.
Yep, it comes through. You can tell that you're really passionate about it, and it's meaningful work for you. And I think that clearly translates to clients who want to work with you. If they're going to spend all this money on a garden, they want to feel like the person who's doing the work is passionate about it, sees the bigger picture as it relates to sustainability and growing healthy food and making sure there's good soil and safe soil in there for their kids. I am curious about cost, right? Because it's
Yeah.
such a huge part of this whole entrepreneurial journey, and gardens
Yeah.
are cheap, and your gardens are, many of them are enclosed is the word I use. I don't know if that's the word you're using, but
Yeah.
it's, man, those can't be cheap either. If you said you had the family of 4, right? And they ended up wanting like this 30 by 30 garden, but let's say they wanted something more practical, maybe like 15 by 15. And they say, Andrew, what does this cost? How do you
Yes.
walk them through that question?
Yeah. The prices of the garden are contingent upon the sizes for sure. And what I can say is that we've had clients the average client spends anywhere between 12 to 15 grand on an enclosure. But we've had clients, the smallest enclosure that we do starts at $7,500 and it goes up from there. So we've had clients spend 20, 30, 40, all the way up to $100,000 on some of the gardens. We want to try and make our products available for everyone. And maybe it might not be a big grandiose enclosure or a big open top garden. Maybe it might be planter boxes. So we try to come up with something for our clients so that it's affordable. There's a small percentage of people that can afford some of the bigger gardens, but that's just the world that we live in.
Oh yeah, I feel that. Yeah, having somebody out to build a garden for you is a luxury in itself, and I often bemoan the fact that we can't do this work for everybody, but unfortunately it's not accessible to everybody, and we got to spread the goodness to as many people as we
Yeah.
can.
Matt, let me ask you a question.
But
If you kept going to like consultation after consultation and people just said no to you, would you have given up on what you were doing? Would you say, oh, this isn't working out, I think I'm going to throw it in?
I think I would think about not throwing it in, but what's not working here? How do I change my message? Does my product need to be a little different? I think the important part is staying true to passion, and then how you implement that in terms, if you're passionate about helping people grow food, if that's what you're passionate about, then you can find many ways of doing that. I think that is, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, no, and
How about you?
I value that as well. It's going to a lot of clients' house, and I've had obviously more people say no to me than they've said yes. That's where that passion comes in. That's where the love, the desire, the fight comes in. That I'm not just going to take no for, hey, all right, no, next opportunity, right? That's all it is, and
Yeah.
we'll just keep fighting.
Do you charge for your consultations, Andrew?
I do for some. If you're like an hour away from me, I'm going to charge you. So think about it. It's an hour. If it's less than an hour, usually I don't charge, because you got to think about it. It's an hour there. It's an hour back, right? But 90% of the time, no, I don't charge for a consultation. So with the Instagram and how that has really helped us out with posting our products and material, we've been down to Texas to look at jobs. We've traveled not all over the country, but the different parts of the country where the client would have to pay for airfare, an Airbnb, and like a rental car for me to come out and to do the consultation. So it usually takes about 2 to 3 days. So there's a day for travel. There's a day to meet with the client, and you have me for as long as you need me to do. I send my samples down to the clients. We go over the different sizes. We ask them what they've seen, what do they want to replicate.
Right.
And then after I meet with them, then you know what I do, Matt, is I go to the different landscape centers in the area. If I know that Matt is selling the best compost in Missouri, I want to go see that. I want to go look at it. I want to smell it. I want to crush it in my hand. I want to see how it molds together. There's a lot of things that, based on what I know about compost, I want to see that in someone else's product, because then I know that my client's going to be safe. So not only am I meeting with families but I'm also driving around. I'll go to different aggregate and stone centers or landscape centers I have to provide a quote. This is part of my service, right? And I have to provide an accurate quote. And that's the other reason why I do the in-person consultation. And that's why the only reason why I do the in-person consultation is I want to meet you. I want to provide samples for you. I want to show you. You know what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely. That's super inspiring that people are flying you out all over the country. And are you feeling, what's your assessment of just the overall landscape of Foodscapers? Is there no Foodscaper in those towns, in these places, or they're just smitten with your work? Or
I guess it's just what expressed to me is they're just smitten with my work.
Yeah.
It's just like I was down in Virginia a few months ago, and we're going to be working hopefully with All Saints Church, which is in Richmond, Virginia. So their garden, they have an existing garden. They built out of, I think, pine. It's 5 years old. It needs to be replaced. But that garden over the last 5 years has provided fresh food and produce for 47 families in the Richmond area. So they grow food to give to people, to help people have access to that.
Yep.
When I went down to Virginia and I met with my client, Gretchen and Vance, I said, why are you guys having me come down here? Why isn't there someone in Virginia that's doing this? And the gentleman Vance said that no, there isn't. He did his research for a month, and there are other companies that are doing vegetable gardens for sure. You know what I'm saying? We just have a very unique style and design and kind of ways and methods to go about it.
Yeah.
That we do.
What a huge compliment that is. That,
Oh my God.
yeah, I hope you feel honored by that. You've clearly really elevated the aesthetic of vegetable gardens and edible landscapes in many regards. And I think we all are gonna, for those who are watching, gonna look on like I have at your gardens and take a lot of inspiration. In terms of this work as a career, I want to move us towards the close here and hear some of your advice towards people who are thinking about getting into this industry, or maybe they're in the early stages of their gardening business and curious about any big takeaways or tidbits of wisdom you would want to share with them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like anyone that wants to get into this industry, wants to create foodscapes for people, vegetable gardens and what have you, it's like, definitely go for it. Definitely do it. They say it takes 3 to 5 years to keep a business afloat, and you might not even make a profit in those 3 to 5 years. You might make enough money to pay your workers, to keep the lights on in the shop, to keep everything copacetic at home, but that money will eventually come. But in my experience, as soon as it came in, it went out because of the overhead that kind of comes with any business. But to the young men and women in the country and people that are listening, or whatever you identify as, and I just say, if you have a passion for it, if you love what you do, then reach for the stars and go out and freaking get it, because it's there. It's not going to be easy. You might have some people that are going to help you along the way. I know a lot of people help me along the way. My parents, Chris and his wife, Kira, Mark and Jean Finley. There have been so many people that have helped me along the way, but they didn't hand me any types of money. They gave me a lot of advice. They gave me a lot of suggestions, and it was on me to go and do the work. You're going to make money and you're going to get paid, but you got to take that and you got to put that into marketing. You got to put that into advertisements. If you're passionate and you want to get into composting, you want to get into gardening. If you're in Connecticut, I know UConn has a great master composting course. We have a bunch of great agriculture schools, but even if you're out of state or out of the country, check with your local universities, check with local agriculture and ag high schools, any of the 4-H programs to where you might be able to help build yourself and to grow within your industry. It definitely takes a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. If you can just stick it out, be okay with being stuck in neutral for a little bit, because it's going to feel like sometimes you're putting all this work in. You're putting the time in, you're working 14, 15-hour days. You see your family when you go to work in the morning and kiss them at night before you go to bed. That's what it takes. And that's what it's going to take to run a business. And the guys that work for me, the people that work for me, they come to work in the morning. We clock out at 5, right? They go home to their families and do what they got to do. I might not do that. I might go to the shop and I might work until 9, 10 o'clock at night. So it's like owning a business, being the boss. Everyone wants to be the boss, but I feel like sometimes like people may not want to put the work in, but that's based on you and your determination. Anything in this world, anything in this life, you can have it. It can be achieved. You might have to jump through some hurdles. You might have to sit back and wait to, hit that curveball. But I can promise you the reward that comes with it is just going to be absolutely gratifying, as it's been in my life and in my experience.
Oh, man. Thanks for sharing that, Andrew. Yeah, it's a perfect way for us to close out with that little bit of inspiration. And I hear you saying you had a hell of a journey that's been very gratifying and also full of hard work, full of thoughtful mentors, people giving you advice, and really meaningful connections with both clients and other people in your world. So just want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, sharing your story with the Foodscaper audience. And we'll close it out there. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd want to mention before we end our time?
I think I'm good. I can't thank you enough. It's been an honor.
If this podcast inspired you or taught you something new, it would mean so much if you could give us 30 seconds of your time, follow or subscribe to the Foodscaper Podcast. And while you're there, if you could give us a 5-star review or rating, that would be so greatly appreciated. These small acts help us grow the foodscaping movement. Thank you for listening to the Foodscaper Podcast. Keep growing. Big thanks to our official fruit tree nursery sponsor, Stark Brothers, for supporting today's episode. Stark Brothers offers a survival guarantee on their plants for the first year, and my company, Custom Foodscaping, relies on them every year to source quality fruit-bearing plants. Shop at starkbros.com. Big thanks to our official garden supply sponsor, Epic Gardening, for supporting today's episode. Check out Epic Gardening at shop.epicgardening.com.